a gut feeling, to something that is systematic, that is tangible, with actions that can be repeated, and identifying success factors that can be replicated and be scalable. And MARTECH shapes the landscape of marketing by working alongside with I like to call the new ABCDs. A stands for artificial intelligence, B for blockchain, cloud computing and data, together with various means such as O2O, online to offline, virtual shops, and omnichannel marketing, to facilitate the betterment and convenience of conventional marketing processes during the modern era where we can make use of technology and big data.
Well, very well said, AI can. So back to the reality. I think by this stage, I'm sure some of you or most of you here might be thinking or wondering, who the hell am I? By way of introduction, my name is Dr. Kenip, and obviously I'm a huge fan of marketing technology. So that's why I'm here today. And in particular, I'm very interested and specializes in what I like to call the new ABCD in business, which are AI, blockchain, cloud, and data. Currently, I'm an associate professor in business technologies and also the chairman of the Asian Market Society, and also wear a number of different hats. So for example, at a corporate level, I'm currently sitting on the board in several organizations, including 2 universities. And I'm also my day job, I'm currently the CSO, which is the Chief Strategy Officer for Neverland, which is a Web3 focused VC firm with a portfolio of around $75 million US. And I also own a couple of tech startups myself. And very lastly, on a personal level, I enjoy reading and writing a lot, and I've published 2 books called Life Hacks and Growth Hacks. And I also have a doctorate in MARTECH. So yeah, that's why I'm here today. So all in all, that makes me a good bullshitter, I would say. And that's exactly why I will speak no more and let the real experts do the talking. So without further ado, now I have the pleasure of introducing our first keynote speaker. Please welcome Mr. David Leung, which is the head of branding, research and development in Maxim's Group. He'll be sharing his insights on Maxim's exciting journey into the metaverse with his presentation titled Eat, Play, Earn, Maxim's First Metaverse Strategy. So give a warm round of applause for Mr. David Leung. Thank you. 轉一轉 channel。
係廣東話係咪？
唔係因為上邊樓上。
Hi， 大家好。Good afternoon, everyone。咁轉 channel 啊 ，it's gonna be in Cantonese. Sorry, guys. So 呢個 screen 係。左邊嗰條花。OK。咁個 topic 咧就叫做 Eat, Play, Earn。咁咧背後咧係講緊我哋呢間美心集團嘅公司嘅集團咧點樣可以第一次去創造呢一個元宇宙呢一個嘅概念嘅。咁我依家開始啦，好嘛？咁簡單用2版講解下我哋集團先啦。咁好明顯啦，我哋係一間好歷史悠久嘅飲食集團啦，有超過66年嘅營運啦。咁同埋我哋有遍佈喺香港同埋亞洲各地嘅好多唔同店鋪啦，超過70個品牌，有超過3萬個嘅員工啦。咁我哋每日亦都 serve 緊好多唔同嘅客人喺唔同嘅 occasion 底下 ，OK？頭先我提及啦，我哋有超過70個品牌啦。咁講緊嘅係唔同嘅餐飲嘅概念，我哋都會係包括到嘅，無論係中餐啊、西餐啊、日菜啊，同埋我哋好出名嘅月餅嘅產品啦。咁呢度你都見到啦，我哋每年都有做好多唔同呢啲嘅產品，同埋推出唔同嘅品牌或者餐廳啦。而喺 marketing 嘅方面咧，其實我哋過往咁多年嚟咧，其實主要都係做喺呢一啲嘅 platform 上面嘅。譬如喺 social media 啦，喺 e-commerce 嘅 website 啦， 我哋有好多唔同品牌嘅 mobile apps 啦，或者我哋同好多出邊嘅第三方 third party 嘅 aggregators 咧合作啦。譬如有好大嘅 member base 嘅 YUU 啊，或者係 Foodpanda 同埋 Deliveroo 呢一類嘅 partners。咁但係我哋又覺得，咦，有乜嘢新嘅 technology 我哋可以去 rejuvenate 我哋現在做緊嘅 marketing 咧？而亦都我哋因為都知道我哋嘅品牌好多都係已經慢慢點樣啊老化緊，咁所以咧我哋希望做一樣嘢，就係去吸引翻好多年輕少少嘅客群。咁喺呢一兩年間，我諗我哋喺 Web3 或者喺 Metaverse 上邊咧，去認識到呢一個 technology 咧，我哋諗到少少 strategy 喺裏邊嘅。咁所以我哋喺上年開始咧，就諗咗一個我哋集團第一次做嘅一個 virtual world 嘅 strategy，OK，係用得着去 Metaverse 嘅。咁點樣可以令到佢幫到我哋嘅品牌，除咗喺實體嘅店鋪上邊 reach 到，即係接觸到我哋嘅客人之外，喺一個虛擬世界上邊咧，亦都可以接觸到佢哋。咁我哋個 strategy 咧，個諗法就係想行一個 O+O 嘅 strategy。嗱，大家平時聽好多係 O2O， 但係呢個咧，我哋希望係 O+O offline 同埋 online 同時間去發生嘅。而因為可以同時間發生咧，我哋亦都可以 track 到佢哋嘅 location， 或者佢哋嘅 visit， 或者佢哋嘅地點喺邊度咧？呢一個係我哋今次最大嘅賣點。呢一個係一個 to go 嘅 metaverse。咁而亦都喺今次呢個 program 上面咧，我哋想嘗試去轉換下本身對於客人上面嗰個 mindset， 即係個諗法。我哋係想調翻轉，平時我哋可能係就話啊，你嚟幫襯買10隻麵包，我哋先至會俾一個折頭你咁講。但係依家呢個 program 咧，我哋希望可以早少少俾到啲嘢人哋，令到佢 engage 我哋嘅品牌之後咧，先至再去之後 give back 去 engage 翻我哋其他嘅產品同埋 service。咁一個好大嘅元素，我哋今次係擺落去呢一個嘅strategy 上面咧，就係一個 GameFi， 即係 game 同埋 finance 可以擺埋一齊嘅一個方案。咁令到啲人咧，或者頭先我所講啦，後生啲嗰一群咧，係可以做得比較點樣啊？好玩啲啦，容易啲嘅，或者係容易 engage 到嘅，亦都有 rewards。咁所以我哋最主要嗰個嘅 tagline 咧，其實係呢3個字，就係 eat、play 同埋 earn， 即係加入咗玩嘅元素，但係同時間亦都可以俾到一啲實際去俾你哋食嘅rewards， 同埋可以賺到一啲嘅嘢嘅，無論係 virtual 虛擬或者係喺實體。好啦，咁我哋喺上年咧就 create 咗一個新嘅品牌喎。嗱，呢個唔係任何一個菜種嘅品牌，如果係呢個係一個我哋集團 level 嘅一個 marketing 擺喺呢個 platform 上面嘅品牌，佢會叫做 Eaty。OK， 咁亦都用咗頭先我套用講嘅嗰3個字 Eat Play Earn 咧，就係擺落去做佢嘅 tagline 嘅。左邊你會見到啦，如果大家心水清嘅話咧，會見到其實係一隻胃嚟嘅，佢係一隻好為食嘅胃嚟嘅。咁而喺呢個 Metaverse 嘅世界，我哋都 name 咗佢咧，叫做 Itiverse。咁當然啦，我哋 create 得呢一個 brand 嘅話咧，亦都想 come up 一個新嘅 IP 嘅 character。咁我哋係諗咗一個 Chef Ity， 一個廚師咁嘅樣嘅一個裝束嘅一個character 出嚟。咁我哋諗緊佢喺佢嗰個世界裏邊係點樣嘅咧？佢會係中意乜嘢嘅咧？咁我哋係慢慢去 build 呢一個 character 咧，喺呢一個遊戲裏邊嘅。咁呢啲你哋可以見到咧，就係佢會有唔同嘅性格啊，佢好中意搞鬼啊，佢成日都好肚餓啊，佢唔驚有任何嘅挑戰啊，因為裏邊有好多遊戲去玩嘅。咁呢度大家見到就係一條好短嘅片咧，就係我哋喺個 App Store 裏邊會見到你 download 嘅時候見到嘅條片。 係啦。咁所以成件事我哋今次做出嚟嘅 positioning 咧，就係想做一個 multi-brand 嘅 F&B Metaverse game， 每一隻字都係好緊要喺呢度。OK， 因為我哋主要係做 F&B 啦。OK， 咁亦都係加入咗喺元宇宙呢個世界，而裏邊想做一個遊戲俾大家去玩，而可以賺到一啲嘢嘅。咁喺呢個世界裏邊咧，我哋都想做得比較係好玩啲啦，所以唔會係好實在咁樣就擺本身嗰間鋪頭嘅樣喺裏邊。我哋所以咧就設計咗好多比較係 surreal 啲、比較科幻或者奇幻啲嘅世界喺裏邊，俾大家去 experience 嘅。但係有一樣嘢我哋一定會 keep 翻嘅咧，就係每一個品牌佢本身個 DNA 啦，佢嘅性格點啦，同埋就係最重要係咩啊？佢個品牌咁多間鋪頭嘅 location 喺邊度？即係話攞住呢個 game 咧，其實去到邊個香港嘅地方咧，其實都會可能有一個地方你會見到裏邊有個 shop 就可以入去做一啲嘢或者玩個遊戲咁樣嘅。咁頭先我講 surreal 啲啦，咁譬如呢一個 example 就係話，我哋會將我哋其中一個品牌，譬如話東海堂佢嘅叫做裝修會係變咗成隻蛋糕咁嘅，呢個就喺現實世界裏邊我哋冇啦。或者佢嘅店裏邊嘅環境亦都可以係比較搞鬼啲嘅，譬如話用啲麵包蛋糕做佢嘅台凳凳啊，令到件事更加輕鬆同埋好玩。咁除咗頭先東海堂之外咧，我哋亦都有另外4個品牌咧喺呢一個元宇宙世界裏邊咧 launch 咗我哋嘅鋪頭，譬如有呢個香港地嘅茶餐廳啦。有美心 MX 嘅快餐，同埋有美心西餅嘅餅店。除咗店之外，當然唔少得嘅就係我哋啲產品。我哋都擺咗好多唔同我哋嘅 hero signature 嘅 product 擺喺呢一個元宇宙嘅世界裏邊。啲人玩完遊戲咧係可以去贏到呢啲嘢嘅，或者佢嘅目的就係話點樣去做呢一個 dish 出嚟。咁呢度一個 example of 我哋依家現在喺個 Metaverse 裏邊。其中一條街，你會見到有幾個唔同品牌嘅店鋪喺裏邊。嗱，有時候同一個地方咧，你會見到2間喎。點解咧？有一間喺地面，有一間喺地鐵。咁所以咧就會有2間出現。咁喺7月頭到現在，我哋已經係 launch 咗300間到嘅 virtual shops 喺我哋呢個 Metaverse 裏邊噶啦。咁就同一日，我哋可以係喺裏邊開始去玩啦。咁好啦，講完啲 background 啦，或者係個世界點啦。咁 for 啲 players 嚟講咧，我哋係想點啊？我哋想俾一個 second life， 俾一個平時佢哋生活之外有少少嘅叫做 good time 俾佢哋去玩下嘅。咁可以有啲打機嘅 adventures 啦，我哋可以喺裏邊儲嘢啦、collect 嘢啦。最重要就係咧，我哋喺裏邊 set 嘅唔同遊戲咧，都係想做一啲比較叫做係好短時間嘅遊戲。30秒嘅遊戲，1分鐘都冇。咁點解咧？因為我哋發覺就係話好多時候我哋喺飲食業裏邊咧，就好多一啲叫做等位啊，或者係叫做你平時無聊嘅時間咧，我哋可以希望用得着呢啲，我哋 name 佢叫做 time confetti。我哋希望可以 capture 呢啲人好短嘅時間去玩一個遊戲而賺到少少嘢嘅。咁 for all the players 嚟講咧，其實呢個 O+O 嘅 Play to Earn Journey 就係基本上就係喺 virtual 嘅世界嘅遊戲同埋 physical 嘅 mission 咧。因為遲啲我哋有啲遊戲咧係要你去到邊個地方打卡，咁又可以賺到啲嘢嘅。And then 最後就係你可以贏到、儲到同埋係攞到一啲真實嘅叫做 rewards， 可能係一個餐啊或者一個 product 啊，諸如此類啦。好啦，咁講多少少 Chef Ity 啦。其實我哋諗咗個 character 出嚟之後咧，亦都要諗一個故事俾佢嘅喎。其實佢就係一個喺呢個虛擬世界裏邊出現嘅一個好為食嘅為啦。跟住佢去到我哋現實世界裏邊咧，帶到好多唔同嘅品牌嘅餐飲體驗咧，就帶翻落去佢呢個 Itiverse 嘅世界裏邊咧，分享俾大家嘅。咁呢度就係基本上頭先我有提及過嗰幾個重要嘅 step 啦。即係你可以喺個 map 度 explore 去賺啲唔同嘅collectibles 啦，跟住你可以玩遊戲 play games 啦 ，and then 你可以煮唔同嘅 dishes，and then 你儲夠咁上下嘅 dishes 咧，你就可以賺到一啲嘅獎品，而喺 online 同埋 offline 都可以用到嘅。 咁再實際啲俾大家睇下啦，因為我哋已經 launch 咗，我哋可以 show 啲 demo 俾你睇。咁遊戲我哋有3隻遊戲啦，有一啲係譬如射擊遊戲啊，有啲係跑步嘅遊戲啊，有啲係抌嘢嘅遊戲啊。咁呢度係其中一個啦。呢個係喺個 map 裏邊，你會見到唔同嘅物件，你可以隨便 click，and then 咧你就會賺到一啲嘢嘅。譬如呢一個係一個 example， 我哋一個射擊遊戲啦，30秒嘅啫。我呢度較快咗。唯一比較尷尬啲咧，有時候喺街玩呢個咧，人哋以為你影佢相，呢個就好怪。但係幾得意嘅，係啦。咁你賺到啲食材就係頭先我所講，就係可以做佢本身唔同品牌嘅 dishes，and then 儲夠啲 dish 咧，就可以去賺你嘅獎賞。亦都可以喺個 map 度咧，如果你話我儲得太多芒果，我想換塊牛肉啊，咁有個 shop 你可以去交易嘅喎。OK， 咁亦都就係頭先我所講，我哋喺咁多間嘅 physical shops 裏邊咧，實體店鋪咧有 QR code， 你喺嗰度一 scan 咧，亦都可以攞到一啲叫做比較 rare 啲嘅 items。係啦，頭先我所講就係呢個啦。我要快啲啦 ，OK？ 咁另外，如果整 dishes 咧，亦都可以係點樣玩咧？就係譬如我哋去到呢一度，我哋揾一間 shop， 跟住咧，我哋可以選擇，譬如話我哋依家揀咗美心西餅，入到去裏邊咧，我哋就可以揀唔同嘅 dish， 譬如話蛋糕啦，喺呢個 case， 咁我哋可以用頭先我哋儲翻嚟嘅食材咧，就去整唔同嘅蛋糕。跟住咧，我哋就可以儲咗落袋之後咧。除咗呢樣嘢之後咧，我哋都會有翻嗰個產品嘅資料喎。咁呢個亦都係一個 product education， 幫我哋嘅品牌將佢哋嘅資料擺翻喺呢個虛擬嘅世界。咁去到 earn 咧，呢度亦都係有個 example。我哋儲夠咗 dish 之後咧，其實就可以喺其中一個版面裏邊咧，就去揀你想要嘅真實嘅着數係乜嘢 ，and then 個 program 咧就會 generate 翻一個 QR code 俾你。係啦，咁右邊嗰個咧，其實就係一個叫做 challenge， 就係講緊每個禮拜咧，我哋有唔同嘅遊戲俾大家玩嘅喎，可能係今個禮拜就想大家盡量去收集呢個香蕉咁舉例，咁收集到有個 ranking 嘅時候咧，最多個人咧亦都可以即刻攞到一啲獎品嘅。好，咁 overall 咧，其實個 outcome 就係希望大家可以係感受到一啲遊戲攞到翻嚟嘅好玩啦、fun 啦。我哋可以將我哋啲品牌喺一個虛擬嘅世界裏邊帶到另外一個 level 嘅 engagement， 俾一啲後生嘅朋友啦。最重要亦都係就係點講咧？頭先我講話，我哋可以去翻個實體店嗰度咧，去俾佢哋打卡。呢個係 increase 翻佢哋嗰個 foot traffic， 即係去店鋪嗰個嘅次數啦。最後就係話我哋喺呢一個 game 裏邊咧，慢慢可以去 create 到一個 community。咁好啦，好快講講就係之後會做啲咩咧？咁當然啦，嚟緊可以有好多唔同類型嘅 collaborations。我哋可以同唔同嘅品牌啊，或者係一啲其他嘅 chef 啊，去合作啦，擺翻啲嘢佢哋嘅嘢落去呢一個嘅虛擬世界。又或者我哋喺呢個虛擬世界裏邊都可以做到少少 sustainability 可持續發展。咁呢個亦都係我哋集團其中一個好大嘅議題嚟嘅。咁除咗我哋內部之外，其實都可以同出邊唔同嘅 Web3 嘅 platform 咧去做配合。OK， 譬如唔同嘅 landlord 啦，因為我哋有個鋪喺佢哋嗰度啦。又或者係甚至乎個 game 啦，因為本身 IT 都係一個 game 嚟嘅。咁最後咧，當然我覺得呢個係最容易噶啦，就係我哋比較叻啲咧，就係可以喺實體嘅地方咧開鋪。會唔會有一間 IT 嘅鋪咧？你知道，等我哋呢一個 program 如果進行得比較成功嘅時候咧，大家可以拭目以待。好啦，咁我今日嘅分享咧就係咁多啦，多謝各位。
多謝晒 David. Thank you once again for David's insightful presentation. May I ask you to stay on stage? On behalf of the organizer, we've prepared a a little gift or thank you certification to show our appreciation. Okay, now let's move on to our second keynote speaker for today. I'm thrilled to introduce you to Mr. Daniel Hagos, which is a Managing Director APAC at eMasters, which is part of a SAP company. His presentation, titled 5 Retail Trends Shaping the Future of Retail Strategy and Execution, will provide us with valuable insights into the evolving retail landscape. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Daniel Hagos onto the stage.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ken, for having me, and thank you for David for the great presentation. So as mentioned, I'm Daniel Hagos. I'm the Managing Director for AMS Asia Pacific. Today, I'm going to be sharing a white paper that we worked on. Is that okay? Better? Okay, thank you. I'll be sharing a white paper that we worked on with Retail Touchpoints, and it talks about 5 retail trends shaping the future of retail strategy and execution. For those that don't know AMS, we're a marketing technology business, so the sessions that we're having today are very relevant for us, and I'm really looking forward to the panel discussion later. So at AMS, we work really closely with retail businesses, and what we found from our research is that retail executives are facing a few key challenges. One really is that the commerce experience is getting more complex, and consumers have a higher expectation in terms of an online and offline experience being linked. Supply chains have obviously been difficult for the last few years during COVID. The decision makers that we've spoken to still feel that there's challenges with supply chain. With online and offline expanding, it means that competition's everywhere, and the cost of acquiring customers has gone up substantially in the last 10 years. Inflation continues to impact customers. It means that customers are very conscious about how much they're spending, and marketers need to think about that when they're spending money. And this is quite important for us as a marketing technology business. The companies that we speak to are really thinking about how they're spending money on technology, about the return on investment that they're getting. Now, for us at AMS, we work very closely with marketers, and a tagline, a slogan that we have throughout the business, really, in terms of how we build our product, in terms of how we work with our customers, is power to the marketer. And we often have goals and strategies that are aligned to this, where we really think about how we're making the life of the marketer easy. And based on the research that I shared before, we've seen 5 key trends. The first, data. Data really is a competitive advantage. It means that marketers really need to be thinking about how they're using data, how they're actioning on data, and how they can use it to improve customer experience. Second is really that the top performing brands are getting really smart about how they use content, really creative about how they use their content. We saw that in the previous presentation as well, where brands are doing completely different things to what they did previously to try to improve their customer engagement. For marketers and for CX business teams, and when they're looking at spending money, the number one outcome really is retention. They're really thinking about how they can drive customer loyalty. Previously, businesses were focusing a lot on acquisition. Now there seems to be a much stronger focus on retention, how they can drive more customer engagement. The fourth is that the retail product lifecycle is continuing to influence CX and loyalty. It really means that the loyalty experience that we're creating needs to be based on products and about the retail product experience. And lastly, and the one that I really think is probably the most important, the way in which businesses are using stores and using offline really has changed. And again, the previous presentation touched on that. customers are expecting an experience which is blurred between online and offline, and the offline experience is starting to mirror things that people are doing offline. So firstly, starting with data. Now, Ken mentioned this as well as part of his ABCD, which I really love, by the way. I think I'm trying to steal that idea. And the D being data. So big data has been a term, a buzzword for a really long time now. Now, I think what's really essential for businesses is that you need to be really smart about the data that you're collecting. I always thought that the idea of big data was pointing marketers in the wrong direction. It was suggesting that you need to have lots and lots of data, whereas actually what you need to do is think about the right data that's relevant for your business. You need to make sure that that data is connected between what you're doing offline, what you're doing front end, and what you're doing back end, and that data is accessible to all. Secondly, and there's a link between data and information, and data is it's somewhat meaningless. You can't really action it, you can't really understand it, whereas information is data that has meaning. And you really need to be able to understand your customers and understand what's relevant for them based on the data that you've collected. And lastly, which is probably more of the starting point, businesses have got really creative about how they're collecting data. You know, they're using things like quizzes, they're using things like games, they're using different ways of collecting customer data and using that data to improve the customer experience. So the days where you could say to customers, fill out this form, tell me these 20 questions, and I'm going to send you better marketing campaigns, it doesn't exist anymore. Customers are expecting a much more tailored and interesting experience. Now, I won't go through all of this slide because it's quite complex and there's a lot of things to it, but on the left you can see data, and this is the different types of data that when we're speaking to businesses, they're collecting. The middle part is really once you can get understanding from this and really be able to action this data, you can run personalized campaigns, you can run targeted campaigns, you can understand who are your high spenders, who are your low spenders, who are your active customers, who are your inactive customers, all of these things so that you can improve your marketing strategy, which is the part on the right-hand side. So when we think of MARTECH, and one takeaway I'd really suggest, it's really great to have data, but if you can't action it, if you can't improve the customer experience, it's completely meaningless. And that's why we always have this flow from the left to the right. Now, for marketers and along the theme of power to the marketer, we try to make it as easy for marketers to do things without having to rely on IT. So this is an example of parts of our platform and how it connects. And you can use plugins really easily to connect data from different sources into the platform. It also gives a couple of examples of personalization. And personalization really it's really evolved from the days of personalizing products to really saying this is the store that's relevant for you, including order information. Customers are expecting every communication that you send to them to be personalized based on everything that they've done recently. Now, secondly, talking about content and creativity, and we all know brands that have fantastic content, and it's content that we really love, and it's why we engage with them as brands. So starting at the top, what's changed really is that it's becoming more challenging to keep customers. The number of touch points that we need has evolved. What this means for marketers is that we have to be very creative around how we're engaging with customers. We can't just hammer home lots of marketing campaigns with promotions. We have to try to mix it up and do different things. So whenever we're speaking with customers, what we say is personalization is essential. Consumers see it as a must, and content needs to be relevant for them as relevant for them as possible. Similarly, omni-channel, again, has become a must, where it can't just be email or SMS, it's mobile apps, it's social. There's a lot more channels that marketers have at their disposal, and customers are expecting to have a consistent experience across all of those channels. Lastly, and this is more of an idea really, is that we're starting to see brands do really creative things around how they use reminders, and that's a really nice way of getting back in touch with someone to say, well, this product that you liked 3 months ago and that wasn't available, it's available now, so great, you can go and buy it. Or you purchased a product which has a natural product life cycle, you've run out probably, you should be buying a new product as well. So by having better access to data, it means that marketers can send campaigns which aren't annoying and aren't, please buy, please buy, please buy. For those, probably a lot of us using apps like Netflix and Spotify, they're really good at using reminders. They're really good at saying, the latest season of Stranger Things is out, you should watch it. And that's super personalized content. They're saying, we know you've watched this, we know you're interested in it, here's a notification. The engagement rates on those types of campaigns are really, really high because they're so well targeted. Just a quick overview in terms of omni-channel personalization. And again, when we're working with businesses, we really look at every single channel in which you can engage with the customer and think about how you can use that channel to create the most personalized experience. For us as a marketing technology company, although I would say all technology companies should be doing this, they should be making it easier for marketers to live their lives, to run campaigns, to do personalized content. Technology shouldn't be easy to use. And one of the things I love about Emarsys when we're working with clients is that our platform's easy to use. You don't need to be a programmer, you don't need to have a lot of technical expertise. It's really easy to do the types of things that we're talking about. All right, looking at number 3, retention and loyalty. So loyalty is an interesting buzzword terminology in the industry because loyalty programs have existed for a long time, and we're going through a sort of revamp of loyalty programs now where they're coming into the 21st century and they're really being enhanced. And we're seeing that there's a large number of businesses that are really customer obsessed and they're really focused on their loyalty programs. I ran a speaking session with Plaza Premium Group about 2 months ago, and the head of marketing for Plaza Premium Group was saying, they're a membership organization. Their loyalty program is, sorry, my phone should have been off. They run a very important loyalty program. They have millions of members, and they're now going through a process of revamping that program as well. So it's something that a lot of organizations are considering. For the other points I wanted to highlight here and thinking about loyalty and retention, it's really thinking about how the funnel, the purchase funnel is changing and really understanding where are customers in the product life cycle, or where are they? Are they brand new customers? Are they customers that have purchased before? And how can you, based on that understanding, send them the relevant message? So often when we're working with businesses, we would say, well, if a customer just purchased yesterday, what do you want to say to them in the first week? What's really important to them? What will they need to know after 90 days? So it's not just sending promotional campaigns. It's really understanding where customers are based on the product that you've purchased. This is even more important for products that take a longer time to buy, where customers will be doing a lot of research, and it's a great opportunity to send them campaigns, send them information whilst they're in that research stage. So Emarsys, we're a marketing automation business at our core, and for all the clients we work with, similar to what I was saying before, we map out these types of automated programs. And this is a relatively basic example where we try to understand what a customer life cycle would look like and then say, when customers are at each stage, how do you want to engage with them? What message is relevant for them as well? And then these programs should run essentially all the time. So you'd have your ad hoc campaigns that sit on top, and then you have your automated campaigns that run underneath it. Speaking about channels as well, again, we would really advise clients to use channels in the right way. So there's a misconception that omni-channel means everywhere at the same time. So send them an SMS, send them a Facebook ad, send them an Instagram ad, and blah, 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 blah. That's a terrible, terrible experience, and customers end up feeling bombarded and end up feeling disengaged. So what's really important is to understand which channel should you use when. So for example, if you're sending a birthday campaign to customers, SMS could be a really useful channel because the read rates are really high, and actually you know that customers are going to be engaging with that channel. So it's really about understanding which is the best channel to use at which time. I'll skip through just because I'm conscious of time. Trend 4, again thinking about the retail product lifecycle. From the marketing leaders that we've been speaking with, they're really looking at focusing on customer loyalty in the coming years. From a lot of the brands and also the consumers that we're speaking with, loyalty programs, again, continue to be really important. I'd also say, though, with loyalty programs, it's really important that they're really clear about how they work. It's really important that they're valuable for customers. Businesses need to move away. Whilst customers are being very cost conscious, we need to be really careful that you're not just hammering promotions, you're not hammering discounts as well. If you can offer things like gift with purchase, if you can offer an improved experience for customers, that's a really big value add. One of our clients is a luxury retail brand, I won't say who, and during COVID, one of the things that they found was even though customers couldn't go in store and they could find the product cheaper online, elsewhere, they continued to buy with them. The only reason they wanted to do that was because the loyalty program was so strong, the benefits they would get from the loyalty program meant they wanted to continue to buy from them. So for those who use airline loyalty programs, you might decide to fly with Cathay versus another airline because you want those Cathay points, because you want to keep your silver, gold, or whatever status. So consumers are looking not just for discounts, they're actually looking for an improved experience as well. Lastly, consumers are also looking for more transparency. They want to understand how products were made, where were they made, and if there's any more information you can give them to improve the shopping experience so that they are more knowledgeable, that's going to be really essential. Now lastly, and one that I think is very relevant for me, physical stores are starting to become a representation of customers' digital selves, and we're starting to see a lot more technology in stores. Previously, we used to see things like magic mirrors, and there would be sign-up forms and things like this. Brands are getting a lot smarter about how they're using technology in store as a way to engage with the product. So QR codes on products is a great way of explaining what the material's made from, where it's been sourced from, and giving customers the transparency that they're looking for. And again, I think there's lots of opportunities in store to engage with customers without having to use staff, because customers are so used to using their phones. I think traditionally brands were focusing quite a lot on apps and saying, download the app, log in, and do this and do that. It was creating too much friction. So I think there's going to be a lot more technology in store. Luxury brands do this really, really well, where they have mirrors that you can engage with, you can hold up a product, you can try on products, you can engage with things that you would see online. It's becoming a lot easier to link together what you're browsing online and what you're browsing offline. Lastly, to this point, I'd say that there are different types of products. There are some products which consumers want to browse online and buy in store, and there are some which are the other way around. So it's really important for businesses to have both of these channels and really think about how they're leveraging them, considering how customers want to buy. Now, speaking about online and offline, which was an example that was given earlier, and speaking about personalization, this is a campaign that I really love, where it's talking about a new store opening. Now, this is a really simple campaign. It's not very pushy. It's not very promotional. But it's really personalized, and it's really smart, because what it understands is, it says, I know this customer lives in this area, and this area is where we're going to open a new store. So I'm going to send them a campaign saying, we've got a new store, and drive them towards that shop. So it's very relevant for that individual customer. Customers would be happy to receive this campaign because they feel like it's helpful for them, it's helpful information. And what we find is that these types of softer campaigns have really high engagement rates and make customers want to engage with brands. So this was the overview that I presented today. Thank you so much for your time. If you want to get any more information on the white paper, it's available online on our website. You can also click the QR code to download it. Great. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
If anyone's interested to ask Daniel a question from the audience. Anyone? Or from our fellow panel speakers?
Sure, Daniel, I thought it was a great presentation. If you had one piece that was a takeaway from your presentation, what would you like people to walk away with as the one piece of knowledge?
So it's a good question. I would say that data and not getting too lost in data would be probably my takeaway, and really think about why you're collecting data. There was a client that we had in Hong Kong who one day called me into his office, and he was like, Daniel, I've got, for all of our customers, I have all of this data. I've got 300 fields. I'm going to use it. And we went through each one and said, can we use this to improve any customer experience? And in the end, there was 5 that we could use. So I just think this whole big data conversation, marketers need to be very careful with and really just say, is this useful? And is this useful to improve customer experience? If it's not, then don't waste your time with that. Great. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Well, I guess finally, welcome to the closing panel discussion of the MARTECH Forum. And for this, we've got ourselves, I would say, a very super awesome lineup of industry speakers here today to tackle the burning questions that's been, I guess, on everyone's mind. So let's welcome them onto the stage then. 嗰個 slide 可以出。係啊，即係 panel 啲人係啦係啦。Can we welcome the panel speakers on the stage? And I wanted to apologize on behalf of the representatives from Cathay Pacific. Unfortunately, Mr. Kunan could not make it today due to personal reasons. But we will still have 3 panel speakers and myself as the moderator. So hope you enjoy it. So, MARTECH, that's a kind of fancy mashup of technology and marketing that's been making waves in the business world. I mean, you know, just like those other snazzy tech terms, you know, like fintech, health tech, ed tech. I mean, the list goes and on and on and on. I mean, they all love adding the word tech at the end these days, right? So here's the $1 million question. Is MARTECH just another one of those buzzwords, or is it the real deal? So, well, we're about to find out because we've gathered a bunch of brilliant minds who will be sharing their leadership perspective on the latest marketing innovation. Today's discussions promises to be a very lively and engaging one. I encourage you to ask panelists anything you want to know about MARTECH. But before we get started, let's take a moment to introduce ourselves. With me today, we have 3 highly esteemed panelists, and I'd like to invite each speaker to give us a brief introduction.
Do you want me to go again? I was just
yes, please.
Okay.
Couldn't get enough of Daniel, right?
Yes, I'm Daniel Hagos. I'm the managing director from Arcis Asia Pacific. From London originally. I've been in Hong Kong for 8 years.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cecilia. I'm the executive director from MARTECH.
Hi, everyone. My name is Magda Kotek. I am the Chief Marketing Officer for Asia Pacific for Invesco. We are an investments fund. If you are a client and investing your funds with us, we say thank you. I also look after the marketing tech stack for parts of the company globally. So very close to my heart.
Thank you. And I guess for those who've just joined right now, right, who've missed my introduction, my name's Dr. Ken Ip. Actually, my background is also in marketing and communications, but these days everyone claims they do marketing, right? So what I like to specialize in is what I like to call the new ABCD in business, which are AI, blockchain, cloud, and data. So it's great to be here today with everyone.
Did you come up with this yourself, or did you?
Of course.
It's very
sure?
good, Ken.
It's very cool.
I'm taking
it's
it.
really good. I'm stealing it. It's so
Hope
cool.
I can use it for a few more times before it gets too old. You know that. Okay, let's dive into it. Yeah, it seems that MARTECH has become quite a hot topic lately. I mean, 2 years ago, everything was about the metaverse, and then last year we had things like the NFT, and then this year, everything and everyone just talks about AI or Web3 and so forth. But as a marketer, what does it really mean to in your eyes? What are the essential components of a successful MARTECH strategy? I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Or maybe we start with the ladies first.
Sure. So I think it's a really interesting question because, is this a fad? Is this something that's going to go away? What does that actually mean? It's a very interesting topic because this morning I actually, for an hour, spent conversation with our regional head of Asia Pacific, along with our chief strategy officer and head of technology, going deeper into what do some of these concepts under MARTECH mean, because the words can be very confusing and you can kind of get lost in what it actually means. But the way that I think about this is that as marketers, we have a very clear mission, right? Our mission is to promote our brands, grow our businesses, engage with our clients, and we often have very clear commercial targets that we need to accomplish. So MARTECH to me is a series of tools, techniques, things that you can do to accomplish that. And it's always going to be there because it's always going to evolve. And so you're going to bring in new technologies, new strategies to make that work. And it just happens that we have more things to put into our toolkit every year because new things are coming up.
Yeah, so I think for me, MARTECH is, from a user's perspective, technology is gonna make our life easier, right? So I think from a marketing technology perspective, what we aim for in a sort of good and useful MARTECH is how easily it can be used by the customers, as Danny mentioned, and also how well it can comprehend the large amount of data we're getting on a daily basis right now, online, offline, all of that, how can we utilize them, how these technology can help us interpret them and translate them into something that we can actually use. From a marketing technology company background, what we focus a lot on is digital marketing and how we can sort of help our clients to use these data, transform them into different profiles, what you're interested in, what you recently bought online, what is your travel patterns, all of these can actually translate into something very useful and to help them, help you guys achieve like the precise marketing campaign, talking to right people, using the right channels, and also sort of the ultimate goal is to like maximize your marketing efforts and like minimizing your marketing spend and all that. So I think it'd be the ease of use and also the ability to be able to process data in the ways that a normal human being might not be able to do in that amount of time and that much sort of volume.
So it's a really good question. I started by thinking, have you seen that chart which has MARTECH logos and it talks about how it's evolved over time? Have you seen it? So that for those who haven't seen it, it's a kind of cloud diagram. I don't know how you describe it, and it has different MARTECH businesses based on category. And something like, I don't know, 15 years ago, the logos were quite big that could fit on one slide. And then it shows like every 3 years, the number of categories has just expanded. And there's so many logos that you just can't see the logos anymore. Like, it's crazy. And I think that vendors have just created new words constantly. We're like, is it customer engagement? Is it CDP? Is it omnichannel? Is it marketing automation? Is it MARTECH? Is it whatever? Like,
and the acronyms, I hate
and
them.
acronyms,
Yes.
and then it's like mobile app marketing, social media marketing, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's so many terms. And I think for marketers, it's probably really stressful because suddenly someone comes up to you, or like your CEO will read an article in the Financial Times about something like CDP, and then he'll come to the office, he or she will come to the office and be like, why the hell are we not invested in CDP? And you're like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
So my conversation this morning with my boss was, okay, just explain this to me in very normal languages and don't use acronyms because I just want to understand what it is that we're trying to do here.
What are we going to do with it? Like, because if it's like CDPs, like there's so much money being spent on CDPs. But
client data platforms.
Yeah, but fundamentally we're going to store data on our customers. We're going to make sure that it's identifiable to one individual, and then we're going to do something with it, which kind of already existed. So I think MARTECH as a term is going to continue to exist, but I think we just need to be careful that we don't just keep throwing in new terms and new ways of categorizing it. But vendors do it, and I know vendors do it because we've done it. And they do it so that they can say, we're the #1 customer engagement platform in the world. And then everyone's like, what's customer engagement? And then that's it. So I think we just need to be mindful that we don't keep expanding into so many categories. We need to focus on, like, what's the why and what are you actually going to use it for?
No, I agree, absolutely. I think in general, the industry or marketers have a bad reputation in regards to how we make use of jargons and terms like that. Because a lot of digital marketers these days, right, basically within a 10-word sentence, the majority of the words they spill out are acronyms. So you cannot blame your CEOs, your clients, or vendors to be trying to speak the same language, right, to please you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about data and analytics. I noticed David earlier mentioned about data and yourself as well in your presentation. And I'm sure in the audience, you all agree that data and analytics play a very crucial role in any types of strategy, including MARTECH. So how do you guys go about collecting and utilizing consumer data to inform your decisions? And of course, I mean, we all want to know your secrets, of measuring and optimizing the performance of your MARTECH efforts. Can you perhaps, share with us and the audience some of your best practices and tips navigating the data-driven kind of world of MARTECH?
Sure, I'm happy to start. And I'm actually going to steal what you said earlier, Daniel, because I thought your takeaway was bang on. I think the most important things with data is starting off with saying, well, what is it that you want to know? What is it that you're trying to do? So for a lot of our data initiatives, we actually start with the question rather than the data. So you say, what is it that we really want to know? What is the business decision that we want to change? What is the thing that we're trying to accomplish? And we start off with the question first, and then we work our way back to say, well, what's the data that we want to capture, or what's the thing that we want to change? And so that's where the conversation starts, because if you start with, let me just capture everything, you're going to be left everything asking the questions after the fact, and then you may realize you didn't capture the data in the right way to answer the questions that are the most important part for you. But our firm has been on a really multi-year journey on capturing data both at the business unit level and kind of across the company. I've worked for small companies and medium-sized companies and big companies and seen this in many places. And here we're doing what I've just described, quite focused on what's the most important question we're trying to answer. We've been consolidating data across multiple touch points that clients have. We use that to know our clients better, as well as to feed them marketing campaigns and do the next step. But we also use that data for commercial business decision making. Like which clients should we be investing in, which kinds of capabilities or products should we be offering them. But at the same time, we're doing a lot of work in the back end on putting in some technologies to help all of that be a bit easier.
Yeah, I think data for us comes from on the two different aspects. One of them from a marketing technology platform. We need to utilize this data to be able to comprehend this data into, what I said, the precise audience profiling that we can use for our marketing campaigns. But then that's very direct data that we can use. But then I think there's we need to know, and we just get a good balance of the very obvious data and also those, let's say, marketing campaigns that might people might feel that you might not need anything. It could be very personal. For example, influencer marketing, all of those that is a hit right now. But then it's not just a simple looking at this influencers numbers or the followers numbers and the trends. I think from our side, we also look deeply into what these influencers data can give us in terms of whether it's going to be the right fit for your brand, whether we're going to predict and assume the expected outcome for these marketing campaigns. For example, we have these, we're not only looking at the number of fans that they actually, number of followers that they have, but we'll digest into where are these followers coming from. Let's say we specialize in Chinese KOL, let's say on Xiaohongshu, for example. We'll look at where are these followers coming from what tier cities, where are the regions, are these your core target customers, and also what are these sort of audiences and what are these fans that we're actually saying online. All of these data can actually help us to sort of persuade and help us to make very good decisions in terms of whether these KOLs are relevant for you. It might, we not only looking at the service level of data, we only deep dive into very deep detail and sort of useful data for us to help us sort of plan these sort of softer campaigns, not so much data-driven campaign. However, we would need to utilize these to make sure that we are sort of more precise in terms of choosing these. And also for data and analytics, I think most importantly, I think, comes down to the performance measurement that we need to use. I think analytics comes into very very important aspect of of any of the marketing personnel, and we all need to report to our boss. We all need to have these data and also have insights to be able to tell them that, oh, my proposed strategy works, or unfortunately, if it doesn't work, then what else can we get out of why it didn't work? And all of these actually requires very sort of strong analytical skills. I think MARTECH actually comes into hand where we no longer need someone that might need to be a econometrics graduate to be able to do all those like correlation modeling and all that in order to drive the deep down insight. I think MARTECH can provide you a very easy platform to give you and already comprehend and present with you all those sort of the basic elements and basic areas, the cost, the ROAS, and the back-end funnel in terms of the customer engagement, the time spent on website and all that. So I think that is ultimately how we should be utilizing MARTECH more, and also how data and analytics comes into hand when we actually ongoing to plan and execute our marketing campaign strategies.
So from my side, I'd probably say two things. One, really about reporting and about data that we're collecting for reporting. Often when we're speaking with clients, a couple of clients would spend a lot of time or ask for a lot of reports, a lot of complex reports about campaign performance. And that can take up really a lot of time, and these reports can often not end up being used. So I would be really mindful around how much time is spent reporting and really focusing on the key KPIs that you want to focus on, and tracking those over a period of time to see how they're performing. Secondly, I think that there's the data that you can have on your customers. There's data which is explicit, i.e. a customer says, I want X or I want Y, or you have that data to hand. And there's probably more implicit data where you could make a fairly good guess on something based on what customer's done. So for example, let's say that someone buys a new TV, for example, or they buy a new oven. It could mean that they're renovating their kitchen, or renovating their living room, or buying new products. So you could take that leap and send them information about other products that fit into that idea. You don't have the data for someone saying, I'm renovating my kitchen, but you could take that leap and then kind of go down that pathway as well. So we try to encourage our clients as well to take calculated risks and try to see how they play out as well. Because if 50% of the people who you send that campaign to say, actually, you know what, I am renovating my kitchen, I would like to speak to a kitchen designer, this is a very random example, that's really useful as well. So that implicit data, I think, is it's an interesting area to explore, and we find the results can be really positive.
Well, I mean, thanks guys. I don't want to put you guys on the spot here, but I just want to drill a little bit deeper into, again, the areas of data analytics. What would you say are the key matrices that you normally use to determine the success of your MARTECH strategy? Do you have any
what was the word? The
matrix?
Key
Matrix, yeah. Because you've mentioned like KPIs and data analytics, but can you give us like more examples
I'll go first because I'm going to be very quick, and then I'll pass over to the experts. I think it entirely depends on what you're looking to do. So I think the metric has to be, what's the objective of the campaign? If the campaign is app downloads, then it's app downloads. If it's driving people to an event, then it's event attendance. So I think I don't really love engagement as a metric just because it's a bit of a cop-out, I think. I think it's really easy to say we got great engagement, but you made no money. So I think engagement's a bit of a tricky one. So I'd say, before launching the campaign, what's the objective? And then think about what we're trying to actually achieve and focus on that. It could be money. It could just be dollar signs. It just really depends.
Yeah, I completely agree, because for us, we will need to look at various different sort of metrics and sort of performance indicators to be able to measure the success. But then, this is the ultimate KPI that I hate to bring out on the table, but I think everyone knows it is associating with money. I think from the marketing perspective, from an agency perspective, all we need, the most sort of effective, most direct way to measure and to report on is going to be relating to ROI and ROAS.
I don't want to pile on, but I think they are right. I think, Ken, the thing that's quite important then is the conversation you're having around what the metrics are going to be, and then how you interpret them. Because colleagues here in the audience that have spent weeks and months figuring out what are the right metrics for us to track on an ongoing basis, what's really going to tell us if something's working or not. And that really does vary business by business. When I do talk to our CFO, he often looks at very specific metrics that may be a little more narrow than what I look at.
Which is usually just a dollar sign, right?
Yeah, oftentimes.
Okay, let's now move on to difficulties and challenges. I mean, we all know that implementing a MarTech strategy or MarTech tools can come with its fair share of challenges and misconceptions. So, in your opinion or in your experience, what are some of the common misconceptions or challenges that you have faced, and how have you overcome them?
Sure. I will answer this, and I will answer this hopefully with a lot of respect towards all the vendors that are here in this really impressive event. I think you have to be really careful thinking that this is going to be fast and this is going to be easy, and that it will solve all of my issues if I just do this one thing. So I think you really have to be, the mistakes people make are not really thinking very, very deeply about what they are trying to accomplish with their business. And what is it that's going to help you get there? So, and be prepared to invest the time and the money and the people to really make those things work. I also think a mistake is either going, it's going to sound silly, but either becoming too narrow in what the partners you work with, are too broad. I was on a call yesterday with a team that looked at 52 vendors for something, 2. And I go, at what point is looking at 10 vendors enough, right? But they had reasons for going that far, but there is a huge amount of time and investment that you put into these things. So my biggest mistakes would be not thinking very, very clearly about what you really are trying to accomplish.
But what about from internally? How do you kind of break down the silos between different teams and departments, you know, to create a more kind of seamless and integrated MarTech approach? So do you get any challenges? I'm sure you would do, yeah?
Oh, all the time, yeah. Right? And it's a really interesting...
How do you address them?
Yeah, I mean, with time and carefully and with a lot of respect to my colleagues. It's a simple answer. But yeah, when you're working on these programs, you have the marketing team as a group of colleagues. You've got your salespeople. You've got your finance teams. You've got technology. You have legal. And in my industry, you have compliance. And so you have a lot of people that you're trying to work through. When I feel like I'm kind of beating the horse a bit on make sure you bring people together and explain what you're trying to do, but it is quite important to bring people together early on so that you can make these decisions together and make it go a bit faster. Yeah, it takes time and being able to speak in the language that people can understand, because what a technologist looks at is going to be very different from what a marketer looks at.
Cecilia?
Yeah, of course. I think one of the key misconceptions I think everyone would sort of have all around this industry would be data is not everything. It's not the sole component of a successful marketing campaign or the only field that helps you go a little bit further. I think data is an important aspect, but then for everything to work well, I think it also needs other components, let's say your internal teams to support your your marketing goals, and also you need to have the capabilities of having the technology to support that data, to process that data, having the sort of right team, right professionals, or right marketing personnel to help you to develop that suitable strategies based on those data in order to make everything work. And also furthermore, like content is a very good key aspect where everyone is looking at content very carefully, creativity, and it comes down to user experience and like store experiences, all that. I think from online to offline, there's so many different aspects that comes together to make a sort of successful campaign rather than just looking at data. Having data is like, and also having a data that you don't understand how to use is useless. It's just numbers and just, yeah, no one's gonna be able to utilize them as well as they should be.
Dan?
So I think for a project to be successful, so I'd say, I think it's really important to have customer references. So I think make sure you speak to businesses that have used a vendor that you're working with. Defining clear roles and responsibilities, I think, is really important. How many people in my team am I going to have to assign to the project? How much time is it going to take for them? what happens if something goes wrong? What if something's delayed? Looking at the contracts, it sounds really obvious, but what does a contract say? What happens if the project gets extended? I'd also test, like vendors are very good at selling their product, but very good at not selling what's outside of their product, like 2 steps away. So I would test that and say, okay, you've told me you can do X, Y, and Z, but if I want to do ABC, not your ABC, but different ABC, if I want to do these things, how can I do it? And is that going to cost me more money? Is it possible? Is it not possible? So I would just test outside of, because vendors will keep you in their circle and you won't really know it, but you'll be in their bubble and they'll just be guiding you through and they'll be like, it's amazing, it's amazing, amazing, this is what we can do. So I would just test outside of it and just to see how much things cost and if the project changes, what actually happens.
May I add one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think all these points are bang on, especially those points you just made. The other mistake that I would say is to forget about the adoption piece. Because you can spend a lot of time understanding what you want to do, finding the right vendor, but you need to prepare your team and prepare your stakeholders to actually use it. Because it's wonderful. You can pick the best thing in the world and have the right strategy, but the last leg of getting people to do it and doing it consistently is really going to be important to make sure it's successful.
That part's so important. Like sometimes I'll see companies and they'll be hiring insert vendor name engineer on LinkedIn, and I'm like, that sucks. Like, so you just spent however much money on this product, and then your team can't actually get training on it. You have to hire someone who's an engineer, who's an expert in it. It's just, yeah, it's not. I don't think it's very fair. So I would just, I think it's an important point. Can my existing team use this? And if they can't, how are you going to train me as a vendor? How are you going to help them to learn how to use it?
No, all good, valid points. Let's talk about innovation. As we all know, no doubt, innovation at the heart of MARTECH. So, I mean, as the industry continues to grow, what are your thoughts on the future of MARTECH? Where do you see like in innovation or the experimentation are taking us, in the next few years? The egg ball.
I can start. Generative AI is obviously a really sexy topic at the moment. Everyone's talking about it. I think that's going to impact on, we already have a product which uses a sort of chatbot feature, which will improve the lives of our users. So I think that's going to be really key. That's probably the biggest one I can see from a MARTECH perspective. Like, I think things like the metaverse, MARTECH could drive people towards metaverse and perhaps be engaged with it as a space and then get people back. But I think it would just be like having another place like for customers to engage. It'd be like having another store. I think generative AI is probably the biggest one because it means that, like our tool, which is quite cool, says, users could say, find me the best campaign that I sent in the last 6 months. What was the best-selling product? Combine them. Or you can do things like say, I want to test out 6 different subject lines, send out the campaigns in the next week, tell me which one works best, and send that one. So like for users, I think the way that they engage with MARTECH, with generative AI, could be awesome. Could be really good.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I think AI is definitely going to be like continue to grow. I think from my perspective, I think it will be the evolution and also the adaptation of AI, how we can further apply that from online to offline, building more personal experiences, and in such a way that we can all engage in more personal. I think personal experience is what I would really like for AI to be able to not just telling me what to do, but also having the ability to process what I like, how I behave online, what I used to purchase from this kind of brand, what sort of style that I wear in terms of outfits, and able to provide me with like sort of suitable solution, even though when I'm in shop and offline. And also one of the things that I'm sort of like expecting or hope that eventually it will hit the world by storm is that I think predictive analysis is one of the key things that I think it would be beneficial to anyone. I think a lot of the marketers spend a long time researching, reading white papers, and doing a lot of data analytics, digging out the past behaviors. But I think what's most important or what's that we cannot foresee the future. But I think having AI, having technology, it can be the future of them able to predict what's the next trend, what's the next heated topic on the internet, what are the new like Gen Z or the younger audience or younger generation are looking at, and then in order to develop new products, new services, or even to tailor make your new marketing strategies or prevent any uncertainty in the market and all that. So I think that's the two kind of areas that I'm looking for.
Could I add just one quick point? Because you inspired me with your idea. I think user-driven AI, I think, is really interesting. That part, I think, is quite cool, where instead of it being, because it used to be personalized recommendations as a sort of main AI, where it was like a black box and you couldn't control it, and you just switch it on and it just works. Whereas now I think we're in this really interesting phase where marketers, users can dictate how they want to use AI and what they want it to do. Instead of saying, run personalized campaigns, you can actually say, you can interact with it as well. So there's a lot more back and forth as opposed to it being press a button and let it run.
Yeah, I agree with the trends that my colleagues have said, and I will kind of leave it there. I kind of go back to what MARTECH is at its core, right, which is around providing capabilities for marketers to reach their audiences in a new way, do their jobs in a more efficient way. And that's going to always be a place of constant innovation. I think what will also come, and what both Cecilia and Daniel touched on, is this idea that it also creates efficiency within your marketing team so you can do these things at lower cost. So I think that that's where hopefully over time we will be able to take these really great trends and themes and make them cost effective for any marketer to be able to do without having to set up, having statisticians or having algorithm programmers, whatever you want. And this concept of continuing to drive cost out in marketing programs or teams is going to be something.
Stay true to your core kind of business and DNA, right?
Yeah, well, marketers are.
Do not get distracted.
We're good at marketing, right?
Yeah.
We aren't supposed to be figuring out how to code. Some marketers are great coders, but we are leveraging our skill sets, right, and doing what we're great at.
Well, let's talk a little bit about partnerships and collaborations. I mean, for example, like, how do you collaborate with, or do you collaborate with other brands and retailers or technology providers to create kind of a more integrated and seamless omni-channel kind of experience? So what are some examples of successful kind of partnerships that you've had in the industry, and what can we learn from them?
Yeah, I can start first. I think partnership is definitely important because we are, as MarTech sort of vendors, we all specialize in our own field. But I think in order to have a successful ecosystem, or in order to be able for us to provide the MarTech platform that is suitable from a user's perspective, they can have that one-stop solution. I think it's very important for us to have the ability to partner with other people that is specialized in their own field. For example, we are a MarTech company that could collide all of these available advertising channels, all the apps, and also we need to have the ability to be connected with all the different data partners that's out there in the field to be able to sort of give us more data for our system to learn, give us more data for our system to comprehend and transform them into different data pools. And also, I think collaboration also be sort of looking for new opportunities and what's new in the market and sort of trying new things, because ultimately the market is changing all the time. This partner A that works with me for 8 years might not be able to adapt to the sort of quick and fast pace of the marketing sort of journey in industry. So I think working with different partners, looking for new different partners and organizations to help you build your own ecosystem, and sort of not treating them as competitors, but as sort of partners or as MarTech sort of players to help drive the industry and to grow the industry further. I think is you definitely need that. You can't just work alone, like otherwise, yeah, you're just gonna be staying in your circle and not growing altogether.
I can give you 2 examples of partnership that we have in our firm, and some of this is really recent because one of these conversations I had yesterday. So we work with one partner. They're in the virtual event space because we do both on like physical events as well as virtual. We've worked with them for multiple years and have had multiple sessions with them to understand their capabilities, go deep in what they can do. And because of that, we've learned very well what we're, like we've really built out our work with them and gathered a lot of data to the point now where they consider some of the work that we do to be leading edge amongst their customer bases, and now we're going to do testimonials for them in a case study for them. We have another vendor out of the United States that's a CDP platform vendor. Very deep relationship that we have had for several years. Huge impact to our business with what they've done, and now they are figuring out how do we take what we've done in their business model, which is purely North America based, and how do they expand into Asia as well as Europe. So we have spent the last 8 months with them educating them about our industry outside of the United States and Canada, and working with them and jointly developing a business model where they could expand with us. It's not easy to do that, but it is something that when you have the right partnerships, they work really well. But you don't do that with everybody, and you do that in the places where you really believe it's worth time. Yeah.
So, I mean, I would just share an example from a couple of clients actually that we've worked with. Most of the clients that we work with, especially in Hong Kong, actually, they like to have individual conversations with us. So they wouldn't usually bring multiple vendors into the room, which is absolutely fine, and that's normal. And it means you kind of have just one conversation. But some clients, and they've had really, really great results by bringing multiple vendors into the room and saying, and it's usually from, the CMO gets everyone into a room and says, this is our strategy for 2023. How are you going to come together and fix this? And we say, well, we're the MARTECH piece, so we're going to do X, Y, Z. And then the social media agency says what they're going to do, and then blah, blah, blah. But it's having us all in the room meant that in the beginning it was awkward because you think, are we competitors? Are we fighting over the budget? But actually, we have the same goal. And if we can integrate and work well together, we're going to be in a better position. We're going to have a happier client. And when that's happened, it's been so good. And the results have been fantastic because we're all aligned. And then it also means that we know how we work together so we can speak to other businesses about it. So I think that siloed conversation leads to silo engagement. Whereas if you bring everyone into the room, everyone's super clear on what the strategy is, and it just means they'll work together on it.
Yeah, the other thing about partnerships that I've learned is that as the client, I think you need to understand that your vendor doesn't always know you as well as you think they know you, right? So I have found it always kind of fascinating when we have meetings and I'm like, why don't we just step back and let me explain to you what we're trying to do? Like, what's my business? What's happening here? And all of a sudden they go, oh my God, thank you so much, right? Like, because now I can have a conversation with you that's very different, and we can talk about these things that actually make a difference for you. So if you are working with different vendors, there are some places where you're going to do RFPs and you are very tactical in your relationships. But once you've gotten to the ones that you really want to work with and that you're willing to spend the time on, invest the time for them to understand who you are and give them a chance to really help you in the ways that they fully can.
I'm afraid that's all we got time for today. Thank you to our panelists for sharing your insights and expertise in MARTECH. But before we wrap up, I think we've got time for maybe just one question from the audience. If there's any? No? Well, otherwise, thank you again, and I hope to see everyone again next year. Well, before we leave the stage here, again, on behalf of the organizer, we've prepared a couple of gifts and thank you certificates to show our appreciation. And we can also take a group photo together.
you very much. Please take a seat. Now I'll pass on to Dr. Yip to have a closing speech.
Leave you with two quotes that kind of summarize kind of the spirit of the MARTECH Forum. So when we say MARTECH is marketing, I think we're not saying that MARTECH is just entirely of marketing. We're saying MARTECH is now an essential part of marketing. Wow. And first and foremost, we're a marketer. So technology is only there to support us. So thanks, guys. Thanks very much. Hope to be back again next year. See you all soon and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.